bad. Some clergy preachers that go bad. Yeah. Money is a temptation that unless we learn how to work and deal with our temptations, then we can succumb to sin. There is a proverb to illustrate the power of money. It's a Spanish proverb that says, the dog with money is called Mr. Dog. You think about that. I know people that will, be drawn to folks of influence and money, and look down or draw away from those that don't have the influence and money. Do you think that could be an evil? And that's why that Spanish proverb, I think, is so true, that the dog with money is called Mr. Dog. A Russian proverb says, when money talks, the truth becomes silent. And we've seen that in our politics, haven't we, with our politicians? Another proverb says, these are not biblical proverbs, when you become tired of your friend, lend him money. You probably won't see him again. And then one that my granddad used to tell us all the time, he says, don't marry for money. A loan is much cheaper. Whenever we make money a priority in lives, everything else is going to take place. Third, when we make money a priority in life, other things are going to suffer. Our marriage is going to suffer. Our friendships are going to suffer. Everything is going to not be the best that it could be. In this case, as a lesson that's being presented to a group of Christians, our Christianity is going to suffer when money is the priority in our lives. I say to young kids or to teenagers, whenever they're going to get into the workplace, one of the first things you need to speak up during your interview is say, I cannot work. Just like you're going to say, I can't work during school hours. I cannot work on this day and that day because I have church. If you learn early in life to take a stand for your religious convictions and your responsibilities to God and His church, when you get older, it won't be as hard. Because this is what you've done all your life. And in church, like us, with our eldership, with our leadership, it helps when our leadership reminds us, young folks and middle age and older ones, you have a responsibility. Make sure that mammon, that the money is not ruling your lives. Because if money is ruling your lives, it's also ruining your Christianity. Make sure that God comes first in everything. Specifically here with money. James 1 verse 17. James 1:17 says that all gifts and all blessings, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow. So if money comes from God, then we should accept the fact that money in itself is not sinful. It is how we use it or how what priority we give it in life. And I think that one of the biggest problems that many of us have with money, apart from covetousness or wanting more and getting it by illegal means, is that we tend to place our confidence in money more so than in God. My father was a contract welder for some oil companies in the late 70s, early 80s. And making quite a bit of money. Had the latest, the newest trucks and cars, nice house, all kinds of toys. We were living life large. But everything was on credit. But making a lot of money, but yet everything was on credit. And with the stroke of a pen, with the stroke of a presidential pen, we went into an energy crisis. And he lost all of his contracts, and we had a house repossessed, all vehicles taken away, and we're out in the streets. And he contemplated suicide. And what held him back was some scriptures when he was in that funk, and he realized, where is my shelter? In money or in God? Our shelter in times of storm should always be in God, not in money. Because money can disappear. Money will be gone. Through mismanagement on your own behalf or through somebody else's behalf, money can be gone. Inflation can destroy your 401k. A fluctuation in interest rates can destroy it. And those of you that are living off a retirement pension check, you know it's not all it's cracked up to be, is it? Proverbs chapter 23, verse 23, and verse 4. Do not weary yourself to gain wealth. Cease for your consideration of it. When you set your eyes on it, it is gone. You set your eyes on it, it is gone, for wealth certainly makes itself wings like an eagle that flies toward the heavens. My dad used to say that my mother was a magician. That he'd give her a full check, and within 5 minutes it was gone. Poof. And she was the one that would pay all the bills, and he'd like to make the money and give her the responsibility of paying all the bills. And she finally got tired of that joke and said, "You're the man of the house, you pay all the bills." And she stepped aside, and my dad was having a nervous breakdown. How do you make this check stretch to pay all the bills, and yet so I can still have my fun play money? And she said, "Yeah, I'm not a magician that way. I'm just creative." Money flies away, and that's what the Proverbs is saying. You have your eyes set on, how can I make more, work more overtime, can I do a side job, making more money. He says that, and before you realize it, it's gone. And isn't it true that the more money you make, the more headaches you have? The more you have, you buy the bigger house, the more expensive house, you have to buy better insurance because you're afraid that you might be out, suffer a loss if something happens. The more expensive vehicle you buy, the higher the insurance is. And if you live in a fancy neighborhood and you have, nice things, now you have to pay for security, right? Are all those headaches worth it? There might be. I don't know. I'm not criticizing anybody if you have these things. But the point is that we need to always keep in the forefront of our minds, we're just passing through. All of that's just going to disappear. And if you are storing up money when you die, as Solomon said in his old age in Ecclesiastes, he said, I'm so worried that after I die, if the Yahoo that comes and takes over my money as an inheritance, if he's going to appreciate all the work that I've done, or if he's just going to blow it, then guess what's going to happen? Rehoboam just blew it. Right? Proverbs chapter 6. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 6. Don't be lazy. Go to the ant, O sluggard, and observe her ways, and be wise, which, having no chief officer or ruler, prepares her food in the summer. Now, later on, I cite this passage again when I make the point of that we should do honest work. But I cite it now as a reference to the fact that when we do have money, that God has made us stewards, managers of a blessing. James 1:17, all good things come from Him, from heaven. And there's no shifting shadow of variation. He makes sure that everybody receives a blessing. That when we do have a blessing of money, whatever amount it might be, we need to administer that money properly. And here the ant serves as an example that it works. It is very industrious. When the time is proper, it works. When the time is improper, it rests. And there's time for us to rest. Do you know why? One of the reasons why God made sure He told His children work 6 days on the seventh rest, it wasn't just to worship. Because you know what some people would have done if they could work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and bring money in all the time? They would work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and kill themselves. So work and rest. Work, rest, and worship God. Work, rest, worship God, enjoy your family. You see how that equation, that whole thing just works together, fits together? Those work and money shouldn't be your number one priority. Proverbs 21, verse 17. It's a simple math, isn't it, that don't spend more than you bring in? Simple math. But in Proverbs 21, verse 17, this wise father gives some advice. He who loves pleasure will become a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not become rich. He's not necessarily talking about the one that likes to spend his time at the bar or at the club. That's not necessarily the point here. He who loves to have a good time, that's not the point. The point is this. The one that likes to spend a lot of money on his or her toys, the one that makes pleasure the goal in life, will never have nothing saved up. You won't have anything. There's some people in their golden years that are still paying a mortgage. And not because they fell on hard times, but because they never administered the money properly. Played hard. Went on every trip. Bought everything they wanted. So what the father is saying to his child, what wisdom is saying to us is, really think about what you need versus what you want. And there's a lot of things that I want. And my wife reminds me of that. I want a lot of things, but do I need them? And boy, have you ever seen that truck or that car that you really want? And you come up in your mind with 255 reasons of why you need it instead of want it. You start thinking and even rationalizing to yourself and maybe to your spouse and anyone else that would listen, well, the truck that I have, it's still good. It doesn't have that many miles. It's still good. But, I hear a little knocking in the motor. A little wobbly here and there. And it's almost out of warranty. And if I don't buy this brand new one right now, one, it's a good deal. Two, there's a rebate on it. Three, it'd be somebody else's problem if I sell this one. I already convinced myself to go down to the dealership Monday morning. See how that works? And we have to be realistic, right? In Proverbs 6:6, again, about the ant, we should always be willing to work and do honest work. Honest work. God has never tolerated us to be lazy. I mean, even when he placed Adam and Eve in the garden, what were the instructions that he gave them in the perfect place? Tend to the garden, right? Dress it. Take care of it. He did, mom and dad were having an argument one day. A discussion, not an argument, but a discussion. And dad was upset that the next day he had to get up early at 4 o'clock to go unload a truck for Walmart because, after making thousands of dollars as a contract welder, now he was unloading trucks for Walmart for, $2, $3 an hour. And Mom said, well, what do you want me to do about it? He said, well, I'm just thinking it's your fault because if the woman had not eaten that fruit, right now it'd be underneath that tree just resting. She said, yeah, you'd be like a big dummy wondering, I wonder what that fruit tastes like. The man that does not work. The one that really the most see my parents felt natural. Seeing other people excel and asking, how do you do it? How can I be successful financially? And their number one reason has always been, make sure God is first. When you budget, it's not the mortgage first. It's not the car note first. It's God first. And I want you to think about it this way. When the children of Israel were to bring a sacrifice to God, it was supposed to be from the first fruits, right? God never wanted the leftovers, and that has not changed today when it comes to giving. So when we budget, we don't budget God at the last, the middle, but we budget God first. And then later on, you can worry about robbing Peter to pay whatever, doesn't matter. But God comes first. And then once we have budgeted God and we've made a promise, that should go untouched until it goes to God. So, as a good steward of the things that God has given us, one of our responsibilities is to make sure that God is in our budget. And again, budget for that savings plan or for that rainy day. I'm reminded of Proverbs 31, verse 21 with the virtuous woman. Industrious woman. Seems to me like she was a businesswoman. Doesn't it not to you? Like she had a business of making clothes, selling it, or whatever. But she seems like she was a businesswoman. What was her concern there? Making sure that her family had everything they needed. Verse 21, look at that passage. She saved for a rainy day, didn't she? And guess what? A rainy day is not like a day to splurge. A rainy day is when bad things happen, when the unexpected, when the transmission goes out or the refrigerator goes on the fritz. Rainy days happen when you least expect it. So save up for that rainy day. And that rainy day, again, it's not the trip to the Bahamas. Right? Because it does not look right when you're 35 years old, married, and a couple of kids, pick up the phone, hey, Mom, my washer broke, and I borrowed money to Mom and Dad would probably give you the money to buy the washer. But at that age, we should be self-sufficient, shouldn't we? And finally, on this section, know the financial equation. Never spend more than comes in. Never spend more than comes in. My brother-in-law has this technique. Some of us that can't control ourselves, right? We it all the time. Given every money is not evil, money itself. It's us who misuse it, us who do not apply that blessing properly. In Romans 15:27, yes, there are ways to do so. This is the financial help that the Gentiles were sending to the needy Christians. We should have money set aside explicitly, so whenever there is a need that arises, that we're able to help somebody. We should be able to do that, shouldn't we? But if we are not being proper or good stewards of our money, we'll never be able to help anyone that has a need. I want to take you to a final verse. We're going to half past. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave. How is that so? Anyone want to venture out to explain that verse? The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave. Who wants to share their commentary on that? Okay, then I'm going to call on you.
First time I ever heard that was
Dave Ramsey.
Basically, he quotes it to emphasize that when you get deeply in debt, then, or even lightly in debt, you want to use that phrase. As long as you owe that, you're somewhat obligated to that lender.
Yeah. So basically, when you are in debt, you are obligated to that person that has lent you the money. And interest rates are something quite interesting, right? When I was carrying college debt, college loans, there was this company that reached out to me. I wasn't looking for help. They reached out to me. I mean, I felt pretty good that somebody was looking to help me. And they said, we will help you consolidate all of your student loans, just make one payment instead of 5 or 6 payments. I said, really? Yeah. They drew up the papers, and I was about to sign, and something said to me, it sounds too good to be true. So I started, those jackals wanted to charge me a higher interest rate than the government was already charging me. And it was high. I mean, it was like an 18, 19, 20% interest rate on a consolidated 5 loans. But the interest, the monthly payment was going to be low because in about 30 years I would have ended up paying it off. It's like a house payment. I would have been a slave to them for 30 years, or what seemed like it. Proverbs 27:23, know well the condition of your flocks, and pay attention to your herds. With this passage, I want to make this, this point, and we'll end here. I've spent a lot of time talking about money, the uses and what God says and all those things. But part of our lesson was being a good minister not only of money, but of material things. With this passage, I want you to look at it. Know well the condition of your flocks. And I want to apply it to this. Take care of what you have, not just money. If you are a business owner and you have a lot of machinery, a lot of tools, or a fleet of vehicles for your employees, and they abuse those vehicles, that makes you upset, doesn't it? It is your investment that they are abusing. God has given us blessings to have a house, to have vehicles, to have material things, and we need to take care of those things because they're a blessing. So pay close attention to your flock. If your flock needs medical attention, don't ignore them. Make them better. Don't ignore, and by extension abuse, even the material blessings that God has given you. Questions or comments? Thank you.